I toil day by day, planting seeds in the soil, hoping they'll find their way. With the rusty old tractor and the trusty old mule, I keep this place running, trying to play it cool. I'm maintaining my half-ass homestead where the bluegrass grows, working the land with my hands, that's how it goes. Though it ain't fancy, it's the life for me, living off the land, happy and free. On my half-ass homestead, I toil day by day, planting seeds in the soil, hoping they'll find their way. With the rusty old tractor and the trusty old mule, I keep this place running, trying to play it cool. I'm maintaining my half-ass homestead where the bluegrass grows, working the land with my hands, that's how it goes. Though it ain't fancy, it's the life for me, living off the land, happy and free.
Hey, we're just waiting. There we go. We got one person in. Introduce yourself. You'll carry on here in a moment. Okay, don't forget a couple more people in the live tonight. Let me see if I can do something to get rid of that light up there. That's kind of annoying to me. I don't know about you guys, but kind of shove it behind my logo up there or whatever. That must cooperate. All right, well, we got it close back. Hey, Lynn, how we doing, hon? All right, so this has been a wild month, I guess you could say. You know, we're 10 days into it. We've gone through tornadoes in my area. That was a lot. And then just yesterday was terrible. We had the tropical storm Debbie remnants come up through, and New York got pounded pretty darn hard. There was a lot of flooding going on, a ton of trees down on power lines and stuff like that. That's all happened yesterday, and yesterday was bad. I was like, how much worse can things get? You know, I'm not going to blame it on climate change because I don't believe in that. The weather changes 11-year cycles all the time anyway. But yeah, it's been weird. I mean, if I had tried to do my live yesterday, I would have gave up. Seriously, I would have gave up because our power was on, off all day long. I have a police scanner on here. I got to turn the volume down on that because I'm not allowed to play that over the internet, I guess. But yeah, the scanner was going nuts, and it was constant. Every town around me, they had a really serious fire somewhere. So our local fire department had to be called in for backup for these other fire departments. They needed ladder trucks. They needed tankers. I don't know what place was on fire or how far away it was, but we had like 4 or 5 of ours. Hi, Arlene. How we doing? We had 4 or 5 of our local fire departments running on one scene, and probably 10 or 15 others around us that were all on standby to cover for those fire departments that were all at this fire. And while all that's going on, there was constant calls in for trees down, power lines down. It was just freaking nuts. Flooding. We have a local town called Marathon. Mind you, Marathon in the spring of the year, there's a big river that runs through there. I forget the name of it. There's been times where that river, now you go all the way to Cortland from my house, it's about a 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive. The water got so high in that river one year that it got right up to the very bottom of the girders for the bridge. And I thought that was bad, you know. I mean, I'm recording it on a camera. Well, while I'm recording it, my nephew calls me up. He says, hey, how many canoes your brother got at his camp? I said, well, we got like 6 of them over there, I think, plus a paddle boat. He says, how many can you haul on your truck? Probably all of them, you know. I mean, seriously, if I wanted to push it, I could probably put them all on. Why? And he says, we need every canoe we can get to go to Blodgett Mills. Blodgett Mills is a road halfway between Cortland and Marathon. I said, all right, what's going on? And he says, bro, he says, this is nasty. His cousin Bobby called him up and said, hey, my mom's house is totally flooded. The water is all the way up to the bottom of the floor joist. and the whole electrical panel was covered. And I was like, well, I was just down the Port Washington Street Bridge. It's all the way up to the girders there. Never seen it that high. He says, yeah, we need these boats to get over by Blodgett Mills. He says, can you go to your brothers, get them, and bring them over? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I did, and we did a video paddling down the river. This wasn't the river, by the way. We were paddling down the roads, and we got to Bobby's mom's house. And by that time, the power company had already come in and shut all the power off to all the houses on that road because of everybody being flooded. And I had to paddle past an auto repair shop, a body shop. Mind you, this guy had 8-foot garage doors. That water was all the way to the top of those doors. He had probably 12 cars in this parking lot. A couple of them inside he was actually getting ready to paint. And they were just floating around. All of them. The damages were phenomenal. So this time when I'm hearing this, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm hearing about these houses getting flooded on a Main Street Marathon. That's typical. The river always floods in Marathon. Almost every spring they get water in their basements. But the number of calls that were going out for the fire departments to go in and help people pump out their basements versus the other flooding that was going on. Natasha just shared one the other day of other places flooding in her area. And it was going nuts. I mean, so many more trees down. Like the tornado didn't take down enough in my area already. Yesterday's windstorms and rain took down a lot more. Actually, Leah and I were out driving around today, and I told her, I said, well, I'm just going to drive around a little bit and show you some of the damages that I've seen. And I showed it to her. She's like, wow, check that out. And I was like, yeah. And then we went by this house, and there was a tree on the power line going to the house. I don't think anybody lives in the house. If they do, they're not there now because the tree went right across the driveway, took the whole power line right down to the ground. And there was like a lot of new trees down in that area too. And I was like, this whole place was devastated like just 2 weeks ago. And now look at it. They're right back to where they were. Like I say, yesterday my power was on, off, on, off. I went to Walmart. It wasn't raining real heavy at the time. I had to take the mail to the post office and stuff because that's kind of like my daily deal for the seed business. So I took the mail to the post office and said, well, it's not raining that bad. I'll just go to Walmart. I got a few things I got to grab. So I go to Walmart. And when I came back out of Walmart, now mind you, I had a windbreaker on, so I was staying pretty dry. I come out of Walmart, I put my cart back in the cart corral after putting everything in the car, and there was a guy in the car beside me just standing there. He got his arms out, and I was like, dude, this is actually probably the best rainstorm I've ever stood out in. It was raining, but it was a really, really, really warm rain, and it wasn't like driving, pounding rain or anything. And he looked at me and he says, yeah, he says, I went to walk out the doors over there. Mind you, this guy's in a t-shirt. He says, I went to walk out the doors over there and all these people are standing inside like they're afraid to get wet. He says, I walked out, I walked back in, says, come on guys, there's nothing worse than stepping in the shower. It's nice, it's warm, so what if you get wet? And when he told me that, and then I'm in the parking lot and I see him out there just, oh man, this is so beautiful. I was like, dude, man, maybe there was a lot of people that were standing inside them doorways that just didn't like taking showers. And he looked at me and started laughing. He says, that might have been the case. And I told him, I said, well, if it were me, and I went back in and said that, and nobody still wanted to come out, I think I probably would have gone back in one more time and said, well, if you go back into the housewares area, you can get towels. They're not that expensive. Go over by pharmacy, you can get a bar of soap. It's very cheap. It's less than $1 a bar. And then you can come out and take a shower on your way home or on your way to your car or whatever, I mean, it was just that nice of a warm rainstorm. And we stood there both crapping for, I'm going to say, a good 10 minutes. Now, mind you, I'm getting soaking wet. My windbreaker was soaking through. My shoes were totally soaked. My feet were totally wet, socks and all. My pants were getting drenched. But I was like, I don't care, What do I have on me I need to worry about? My phone, great. I tossed it into the car, closed the door, and stood there BSing with this guy. And then it brought me back to the time where I was thinking, there was a time not that long before where I had my camp. And Gary, my guy that was my eyes and ears, I kept him at the camp. He was a homeless guy, and he needed a place to stay, and I needed somebody to keep an eye on things when I was at work. So I let him live there. Gave him his own bed and everything, and it was all cool. And we had this one day where we had a rainstorm, pretty much like the one we had yesterday morning was. And I said to him, I says, Gary, let's get out the Fantastic and stuff. There's Natasha Lynn. Let's get out the Fantastic and the brushes and stuff. Let's give this trailer a really good wash down in this rainstorm because it's perfect for doing this. So we're out there and we're scrubbing the whole camper down. We got soap on everything, and we're trying to get all of like the algae from the forest that was behind my camper off the side of the camper to make it look new again. And we're out there and we're really cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. When we finally made it to the other end of the camper, now mind you, everything was covered in soap. We had buckets all over the place out in the yard collecting the water so we could splash it up on that part of the camper because you got the trees here that was blocking the rain from the back to that side of the camper. We got it all soaked up. We got it all cleaned off. We go over and we start grabbing these buckets, and lo and behold, it quit raining. And we did not have enough water to wash all the soap off the camper. He's like, what do we do now? I said, put the buckets back out there. It's going to rain again. I don't care, But yeah, we were out there in our shorts washing off my camper. I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of special, actually. It was just the thing that Gary and I had in common. For showers, I built an outdoor shower with a solar shower bag. I think I held 5 gallons of water. You fill it up with water, you set it down on the porch on a sunny day, and it would get really, really hot, So we wouldn't do that for very long. We'd leave it out there on the deck and just keep touching the bag. When the bag felt like it was really, really warm, we'd take it out, hang it up in the shower, go out and take our showers or whatever. And I also had a place nearby that was called the Fox Road Waterway. It was a really, really nice, deep, kind of a swimming hole that was always moving water. And we were going there almost every weekend. My kids would go there with us, and we had a couple other people that joined us over there all the time. I actually went over there and mowed the whole lawn around it and stuff. So when we got there, we weren't walking, through tall grass and having to worry about fleas and ticks and whatnot. And of course, the dogs would go with us and stuff too. And I decided one day over there, I needed to do a walk. I wanted to see where the water was coming from. And I'll tell you, that was mind-blowing. I have no idea how this worked. But we walked all the way to where the water started, and it was like really, really big holes in the side of a farmer's field. And there was probably 10 of them. And water was gushing out of all 10 of those holes. I was like, well, that's really weird. I've never seen anything like that. It had to have been a bunch of springs or something in the area, and it was just like washing out under the bottom of this farmer's field. But he still was growing his crops on top. And apparently he didn't have a fear of ever sinking in, which was pretty neat. But then we decided, hi, Arlene again. So then we decided this one time that we were going to walk from the swimming hole all the way down to see where it went, because apparently there's going to be a pond or something, right? No, there was a sinkhole. That thing had to have been a good 4 foot in diameter. I was there with my brother, and I had my brother hanging on to my feet, and I had an 8-foot stick in my hand, and I stuck it down into that hole, and I was all the way down to where my armpit was into the water, and that thing did not touch bottom, and it was going in like a whirlpool. I had him pull me back up, and I says, all right, nobody goes down here. Because if this goes back into the ground like it's going in and comes out somewhere else like it's coming out up the other end, you're not coming out with it. You're going to be stuck under the ground forever, and nobody will know where you're at. It was just that easy. But it was probably one of the best things I've ever done. It was just, I've been adventurous that way. I like to check things out. You know what I'm saying? Another thing like that was I did that short video of everybody needs to find their place where they can just take their mind away. And there was these waterfalls and water running and whatnot. I did that again just last month. I think it was towards the end of the month. And this time, instead of just going over and, sitting around by where you're hearing the waterfall and all that stuff, there's a big flat kind of plateau up on top where the water is not even probably a 1/4 inch thick on most of it, but not all of it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to walk this up on the flatland. I shattered my heel 3 years ago, and I haven't done physical therapy in 2 years, which that helped, and not doing it for 2 years hasn't helped. So I just said, well, you know what? It's not perfectly flat, but it's close. I'll just go up there. I'll walk as far as I feel like I can walk, turn around and come back. I was interested, where's the water coming from that feeds the falls? Well, I walked all the way up to where there was a big tree that went all the way across. There wasn't enough room to go underneath it. It was too tall to go up over top of. You could walk over into the woods, walk around the root system, and then go back over again. And I was just like, I'm not that curious. It was a pretty good walk up to that point and a pretty good walk back to where the car was. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this once a month. From here on out, I'm going to go there once a month, and I'm going to do that walk because it's such an uneven pace. My foot doesn't move left to right. If you're walking on a side hill, your foot will bend and you can walk down the side hill. I can't. My foot doesn't bend that way. And I have to wear a brace to keep it from doing that so I don't worry about breaking my heel or breaking my ankle. And, yeah, I was talking to Paul Honeyman last night, Lynn. He was over on, oh gosh, who were we with? Yada, 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 yada. Mike and Melissa's channel, I believe it was. I'm not positive. I think it was Mike and Melissa. That would make sense, I guess. So yeah, he's still kicking around. But so yeah, I decided I need to do that path once a month. I'm gonna go up there and I'm just gonna walk it. And I'll walk as yeah, Tasha, he was. I went up there and I walked that, and I was just like, I need to do this like once a month. Just loosen up the tendons or whatever in my ankle or whatnot. So I'm gonna start doing that once a month. That's just a given. It's not that far from here. I mean, I go there to get my cigarettes anyway because I get my cigarettes from an Indian reservation over that way. But if you're ever in New York and you're in, I don't even know the name of the town, but it's before you get to Cuba. Before you get to Cuba Heights. No, is it? No, it's not Cuba Heights. Where do I buy my cigarettes? It's a Cuba nation. Good Lord, I got it written down. All right, Seneca Falls. If you ever by Seneca Falls, you go from Seneca Falls towards Ithaca on Route 90. You'll see a big barn on the right-hand side that says Great Gully Farms. The falls belong to them, and they're on the opposite side of the road. And there's a big parking area where you can go down in there and you can walk around and enjoy the waterfalls, swim in the water if you want to or whatever. A lot of people do. Last couple times I've been there, I've pretty much been there alone. I mean, there were people walking around this last time. That's what gave me the gall to walk up to the flats and start walking around up there. And everybody I've ever met there is really nice people. Most of them are not locals to that area. They just happen to stumble onto it like I did originally one day. And they go there every once in a while and just, enjoy the waterfalls basically and enjoy the water. There are some brave ones over there that'll actually climb up the waterfalls. I don't do that. There's stepping stairs on the side of the falls to get up to the top. That's my path. There's another path that goes way up on top of the hill that you can use to walk all the way back to the other end. I tried that one day, but I'll tell you, if you're walking in the woods and you got a big body of water beside you like that, you better be ready for mosquitoes. I only walked that way because I had to go pee on my way home, and that was the next stop on the way. And I went up to the top of the hill up there because there was a bunch of people down at the falls, and I got out of view. And by the time I came back down off that path, I probably had 50 mosquito bites on me. So that was pretty bad. Hey, Natasha, I was seeing your deal with that flooding over there. We had the same thing here. It was pretty nasty. I don't know how deep the water got in some places. I know my front yard is higher than all the land around me. Like in the spring when we have a really bad snow year, the whole farmer's field behind me looks like a lake, and there's actually a river that runs in the middle of the two fields. You can't tell there's a river there. I actually bought an inflatable kayak so I can go play in the water when that happens again. But my yard is higher than all of that. And it rained so heavy Friday morning that for me to get to my car, I had to walk through 3 inches of water. That's how hard it was raining. It just wasn't soaking in anymore. I mean, my seed house right here from where I'm sitting is probably about 35 feet, maybe 40 feet from me. It's a dark green roof, and it's right outside my window. I could not see that roof at all. Yeah, Tasha Lynn and I both live in New York State, Lynn. For now. We're not staying. We both have already made our minds up. This is not the retirement home place. By any means, this is not the retirement home place. New York State is terrible. I actually have a sign out in my front yard. It said Trump is innocent. Still keep voting. Hashtag New York sucks. 2024. Speaking of that, today I just got my Trump Bant sign in the mail. I thought that was pretty cool. I've been a member of Trump's team for a long time. I've got all kinds of certificates from him and stuff. And he asked me if I wanted one of his yard signs. And I was like, well, heck yeah, I want one of your yard signs. He's like, still live at the same address? And I says, yeah. And he says, all right, I'll mail you one. So I just picked that out off the mail today out of the post office. I knew what it was the minute the mail lady handed it to me, because it came in this like really nice black Tyvek waterproof bag envelope. And the minute she handed it to me, I was like, oh, good. I got my new yard sign. See, Natasha, I've never been to Letchworth State Park. Actually, there's quite a few state parks I haven't been to. Long Point State Park is one over by Union Springs. I've checked that one out. I actually thought about taking my boat over there and launching from there, but there's like a really big thing going on now with this blue algae. And you can't swim in the water. If you put your boat in the water, you take it out of the water. Before you can bring their boat back to the water, it has to be totally washed on the outside. I mean, I got a pressure washer and stuff, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, we're both upstate. I'm in central New York, which is Cortland County. It's right dead center of all of New York State. And Natasha is farther north and west of there. Tell me if I'm wrong on that, Natasha, but I'm pretty sure it's north and west of where I'm at. She's pushing more towards the other side. Yeah, actually, Natasha, believe it or not, we normally get 200 tornado warnings a year here. We don't normally hear all of them because they're not always within our direct local areas or whatever. But New York State gets 200 tornado warnings a year. I did not know that until just this week. I was talking to Ryan Hall, a meteorologist. If you guys don't follow Ryan Hall, y'all, I'll be honest with you, you need to. He is the most accurate weather forecast person that I have seen. He's on YouTube, so you can watch him for free. But he is the most accurate one I have ever seen, and he covers almost all of the United States, but mostly from Texas on up the Panhandle through to Wisconsin, all the way over to New York and down into Florida and stuff. He pretty much concentrates in that area because he lives in that area. I believe he's in Kentucky, but it might be West Virginia. I'm not positive on that. But yeah, I talk to him a lot. I actually support his channel a lot. And I've sent him pictures. I've sent him warnings that we're getting that he's not hearing in his weather station. And of course, being a weather guy that he is, he also owns a Storm Chaser car. He doesn't use it as much as he should, but he's in touch with all of the other Storm Chasers. And he has another younger guy that backs him up on the channel. So if he wants to go out in a Storm Chaser car, he can. And the younger guy will come in and fill in for him. And they're both awesome, awesome people. Yeah, I can't follow my local weatherman. My local weatherman is wrong 100% of the time. 100% of the time. He's in a radio station with no windows to give you an idea of how accurate he is. It'll be downpouring rain outside, and well, you got 10% chance of rain today. Other than that, it's going to be this temperature, blah, blah, blah. It's downpouring rain, and it's turning into sleep. He doesn't even know. Yeah, that's what I thought. Kentucky. Yeah, he is so accurate, especially on the tornadoes and stuff like that. He'll give a week's worth of warning on a tornado area that's possible to hit, and 9 times out of 10 he is right about it being in that area. Not always right about it being a tornado, but he's always right about the area that it will be in if it does touch down. Now for New York, for us, he did touch on it. I watched him. I called him up and I said, Ryan, you need to do me a favor. You need to raise your bar up a little bit higher on this one, because you're saying we have a 10% chance of tornadoes. And meanwhile, while you're telling me we're getting 10%, I've got a police scanner sitting right next to me telling me we're 100% right now, right in my neighborhood. And that's when I got a call from the fire department saying, hey, we don't have enough people with chainsaws to clean trees off the road. Can you help us out? Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem doing that. I'm semi-retired. My job for the seed business is I sit here and I do payroll every Tuesday morning. I order labels when they're needed. I order packaging materials when they're needed. I turned everything else pretty much over to Leah. She orders the seed. She orders the packaging and all that stuff. She deals with the employees even. I mean, I deal with the employees quite a bit, but she deals with them more than I do. And right now they're all off because seeds are seasonal. And to give an example, last year this time of year we were doing on the neighborhood of probably about $350 to $500 a day in sales. Yesterday we did 115. So inflation's killing everybody. The weather's not helping any, and a lot of people are just having to work more hours, so they're not wanting to go home and work in their gardens as well. I found that to be a big issue. I always took pride in our seed business being dollar seed because it was $1 per package of seeds. And when inflation hit and stuff, all of our prices went up, and including postage. We raised our postage once, which I was mad about. I was like, I shouldn't have to raise my postage, but we did. Because, for me to say, okay, it's going to cost me $1 more per package to ship it, that's easy to say. For me, we had custom packaging being made by Sticker Mule. So for me to have to raise that price by $1 or whatever we raised it by, it might have been 50 cents at the time, even though it was costing us $1. I had to pay $4,000 for the packaging change. So now everything's packaged with the new rates on them and stuff. And then this year, because the cost of seeds went up, the cost of postage went up more, the cost of packaging went up, the cost of labor went up. Anybody that was working for me making $15 an hour automatically started making $16. I had a couple of them that were making $16 because they were doing mail runs for me and stuff and whatnot. And they were very dependable people. Actually, the husband was working with me on doing construction work and making cutting boards and stuff. So I raised them from 16 to 17. And then Leah was making, God only knows what I pay her. So she got a raise as well, because it's not fair if I give the lowest person a raise to $15 an hour. I didn't have anybody working for me under that, but if when they raised it to $15 an hour, I was like, well, that's not fair. Everybody has to get $1 across the board, including myself. And so we did that. Well, this year it just got so crazy. I told Leah, I sat her down and I said, look, I've been really, really heavily thinking about this. I don't want to cut back the number of seeds we put in the package, because that's a logistics nightmare to do that, for one. I didn't want to do that. I said, so why don't we do it this way? All the dollar stores went to $1.25. We're going to $1.25. And she's like, yeah, by all means, we're losing money. And I was like, I know we are. And so we went to $1.25. And I told her, I says, if it turns out to be a bad decision, it's a bad decision. We'll deal with the bad decision down the road, but we'll try it and just see what the response is. The response was freaking awesome. Customers were like, we were wondering how you could afford to stay in business this long. We were afraid you were going to just fold up and close down because you weren't charging that much. And I was like, well, great. Customers are liking it. They don't have a complaint about it. They're used to paying more money for everything. We're in good shape. But again, we're seasonal, so sales have dropped off. And like I say, inflation is making it so everybody's paying more money for everything. So they don't have the excess money to like grow big gardens or whatever, unless they do it to save money at the grocery store. And because they're working extra hours and whatnot, they don't want to be working in the garden as much anymore either. So it's kind of a toss and go. It'll get better. It'll get better. I have a feeling that after November 5th, and I'm not going to go political on anybody, but I have a feeling after November 5th, we're going to see some major changes in the inflation rates, the cost of fuel, which plays a big part in the cost of the products that we buy. We're going to see, just a lot of changes. They're needed changes. I just seen one the other day. It kind of blew my mind. The Small Business Association got wrapped up in some big scandal, and it was a political scandal at that. And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute! You're a non-political unit. You're funded by the federal government to help small businesses, but you weren't helping small businesses. You were paying for advertising for a political party. That's against the law. So I'm pretty sure you'll never see that happen again. So I just see a lot of good changes coming. By now you probably know who I'm voting for. I'm not afraid to say this is the guy I'm voting for. You know what I'm saying? I just know I'm not supposed to say that on YouTube. Yeah, well, I was watching some of the stuff too about these guys seeding clouds and trying to make it so that you have more cloud coverage to block the sun. And I'm like, well, if you're blocking the sun, you're hurting my gardens. If you're hurting my gardens, you're hurting everybody else's gardens. One thing plants need to grow is sunlight. Someone can grow great in the shade, but you need the sunlight. And they're seeding the clouds. Well, when they seed a cloud, that means it's going to force it to cause more rain. But unfortunately for us, when they cause more rain, that also means it's going to be acid rain. And yeah, Natasha, I'm telling you, I myself am one of those kind of people that I was in the military and I was stationed at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And I laughed about it because we were out on bivouac for, I think it was a 10-day spread or something like that. And we got rained on really, really hard. So everybody's, rucksacks and whatnot got soaking wet. Not everybody's was 75% wet, but everybody's got wet. And we got called to a meeting, and our company commander got up on the stage and he says, all right, I got good news and I got bad news. Which one do you want me to give you first? And I yelled out, give us bad news first, sir. He says, well, the bad news is if your rucksack ain't more than 75% wet, you ain't getting a dry one. I was like, awesome. What's the good news, sir? And he says, the good news is we're staying out for an extra week. Great. And everybody's like, what are you, nuts twisted or something there, my outfit? And I says, no, I'm from New York. I never been able to go camping in February. I mean, my brother and I used to camp in December and January and stuff, but with our tent covered in snow, because the more snow you got on your tent, the warmer it is inside of it, kind of a thing. We winter camped, but we weren't winter camping down there. It was beautiful weather. I used to laugh because they would actually roll up the sidewalk. If they got just a little bit of an ice on the sidewalks, they'd shut everything down on base and off base. they'd shut everything down. I mean, they literally would roll, what we would call roll up the sidewalks. You weren't allowed to walk anywhere. You weren't allowed to do anything. They wouldn't even let us walk to the chow hall one morning. And I walked up to my company commander and I said to him, I said, sir, with all due respect, I have my license for the deuce and a half. Please let me drive down to the chow hall and bring chow back. And he says, no, we can't let people drive in these conditions. And I looked at him, I started laughing. I said, sir, I'm from frickin' New York. I can drive in a lot worse than this. And they talked it over for maybe a half an hour. And I had the company commander come back up to me in my barracks and he says, all right, Moffett, here's the deal. We're going to let you drive the deuce and a half down to bring chow back for everybody, but Drill Sergeant Henderson has to ride with you. If at any point in time he thinks that you're unsafe in that truck, you're going to have to get out and walk back. Fine, not a problem. It was nothing. It was like a 1/16 of an inch of ice on the sidewalks and in the road, literally. I mean, the weight of that truck broke the ice and I was on pavement. And I was laughing because they didn't want anybody walking. They didn't want anybody outside. And I was just like, well, this is dumb, you know. But yeah, during summer months, it was really hot down there. And then on my part of my duty was we would go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Well, that's right above Arkansas. You want to talk about hot and humid? That's hot and humid. We were at Lake of the Ozarks area, so it was very hot and humid. And I enjoyed it other than the fact that my office was stuffed in the back of a building. I had one door going in and out, no windows, no nothing. I had to requisition a fan, and I literally had my pants rolled up above my knees. My shirt was unbuttoned sitting behind my desk. My sleeves were rolled up as high as I could make them go. And a general came in to ask me a question, and he looked at me and he says, you're out of uniform. I says, with all due respect, sir, do you have a air conditioning unit in your office area? And he says, yes, I do. I says, well, take a look around. I don't. I got stuffed all the way in the back corner of this building, and there's no air, there's nothing. I had to requisition a fan in order to just get some air movement, but it's just dead airspace and it's hot. And he's like, okay, carry on. He understood my plot, you know. And our company, what the heck they call him? The company, he wasn't a pastor, but he was like the company preacher kind of guy. He came into me and he says, hey, he says, I just sat down with the general and I had a couple of chit chats with him here, and I need you to do me a favor when you get done tonight. And I was like, what's that? And he says, go back to your barracks, get out of your uniform, slip on a pair of shorts, and meet me at this place. I said, all right, what are we doing? He says, you'll find out when we get there. And I did it. And I'll be darned, what he did is he took me to a steam sauna. I was like, dude, I've been sweating all day long. He says, no, you don't understand. You hop in this steam sauna, you sit in there with me for 10 or 15 minutes. When we walk out that door, you go in, take a shower, get dried off, and then we go outside. You will feel 300% cooler than you were all day long. Oh, man, he was right. So I told him, Gary, from here on out, at the end of every day, I want to meet you here. Let's do this. This is great. And I like the guy anyway, you know. I mean, I'm not a real religious dude by any means. I swear and I drink. And he didn't care. What he did care about was the camaraderie and the friendship. And that's the way I am. And, you know, we would talk about different things all the time, but we kind of stayed away from a lot of stuff as well, you know, just because that's the kind of person I was, and that's how generous of a guy he was. We had one time when we were there, they had a music room set up at the rec hall, and there was a bunch of guys in there playing guitar and drums and everything else. And I was like, what's it cost to go in there? And he says, nothing. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. He says, just go up here and sign out a guitar or whatever you want to play, and you just go in there and do what you want. I was like, well, what do I sign up for? And he says, over here. So I walked over and I said to the lady that was behind the counter, I says, do you have an acoustic guitar that I can play where I'm not inside of the sound room with all these guys because I don't know what they're playing? I just want to kind of play guitar for a little bit. She said, oh, yeah, absolutely. Signed me out a guitar. I took it over in the corner and I sat there playing it and did a couple songs with it. And Gary, of course, was right there with me. And when we got done, he says, all right, you're going to be playing this weekend. And I was like, what? And he says, yeah. He says, I'm hooking everybody up with a party this weekend between the two barracks that we have. We have men's barracks on the left and women's barracks on the right. And there was a big old tree in the middle. He says, we're going to go out there and hang out and have a little bit of a party or whatever. He says, I want you to play and get music over there. And I was like, all right, I guess, but I need a guitar to use. And he says, nope, I already got one lined up for you. I was like, you do? And he says, yeah. He says, while you were playing that, he says, you impressed me so much, I went in and I made a phone call. All right, whatever. Well, it was like a Friday night, I think, and we all got together in between the barracks and stuff. We had all kinds of stuff going on. There was people making sandwiches, and there was all kinds of beer and whatnot, and sodas and whatnot for everybody. And Gary came out with this brand new guitar in a case, and he handed it to me. He says, there's a microphone already set up for you. Go have fun. And I went up, and I was like dumbfounded. I was like, all right, what do I do? I took the guitar out. I made sure it was all in tune. It was perfect. And I said, all right, well, what's the best way to get started on playing something? So I reached out to everybody and says, all right, here's a new way we're going to play with this one. I've never done this before in my life, but I think it will be fun to try. And they're like, what's that? I said, if you name a song and I can play it, you have to bring me a beer. But if you name a song and I can't play it, you have to drink a beer. We turned that into the best beer drinking game I've ever played in my life. I woke up the next morning sleeping against that tree with about 15 or 20 people laying on the ground around me going, yeah, that was cool. Hey, Trey Sutton, how you doing, bud? So, I mean, it was just one of those things. It was fun. It was something to do. It took a lot of people's minds off different things. Now, in my unit in Ithaca, New York, there were two other guys that played guitar, and they were in there they were frustrated trying to figure out how to play Freebird. And I was like, may I? And guess what? I says, you're trying to figure out the chords to Freebird. Can I show them to you? He's like, you know how to play Freebird? And I was like, yeah, I know how to play Freebird. And he's like, yes. He hands me the guitar. I sat down on the edge of the table and I said, well, this is the chords to Freebird, man. It's pretty easy. They're all basic chords. He says, yeah, but what about the choruses? Same chords. Nothing different. The whole song is all the same. It's like 3-4 chords all the way through the whole song. It's basic. And he's like, well, man, thanks for showing me that. And I said, hey, not a problem. Handed him back his guitar and went on my way. About a week later, they were sitting at the table again, and they were trying to figure out some other kind of a song to play. And I walked over and said, what are you guys trying to play? And the same guy said to me, well, we're trying to learn this one. And I was like, I can show you the chords, but this isn't a basic song. This is not like a beginner song. It's not just 3 or 4 chords. There's like 9 or 10. And it was Ronnie Millsap, almost like a song. Ronnie Millsap created his own chords. When I learned that song, I actually had a neighbor where I grew up at. He bought the house that we helped build for one of my dad's friends. And he played keyboard. And he played very good keyboard. And I was like, that's awesome. So I went and I bought the sheet music for almost like a song. And I took it over to his house and handed it to him. Said, can you learn this? And he looked at me and, excuse me, that was a drain play. I said, can you learn this? And he looked at me and he says, I can play it. I was like, can you play it now? He's like, yeah, I'll play it now. So he played it. And I was like, can I go over and get my guitar and come back and have you do that again? But I want you to do it as using the most basic chords so I can figure out what those chords are on my guitar. And he said, yeah, we can play all day like that if you want to. And we did. We played all day like that. And we finally got it all figured out and stuff. I brought my microphone over and my PA, and we played the song. Probably 24 times or better. I was just getting ready to pack everything up to go back to my house, and my dad came over. Guitar in one hand, amp in the other. Hey boys, can we do this one more time from the top? And I looked at my dad and I said, "You've never played this song." He says, "I know, but I've always wanted to." And I was like, "Well, it's up to you, man. You know, you're the one playing the piano. It's your house. You're playing the keyboard." He said, "Yeah, we'll do one more time for your dad." He said, "Heck, we can do 2 times with your dad if he needs the help to get it in line with us or whatever." My dad, every note, 4 note, never missed a beat. From the beginning of the song to the end of the song, picked every freaking chord by ear. Never played it before in his life. And now I was like, if I played that well, I sure wouldn't be sitting here selling garden seeds. You know what I'm saying? I'd be on the road. I'd be somewhere. I'd be like Oliver Anthony, although that isn't his name. That was his dad's name. But I'd be like him, you know. Go make money. He's actually doing real well for himself. I was just watching one of his videos the other day, and Oliver Anthony, everybody thought he signed on to a record deal and was going to get millions of dollars for signing on. I even thought that myself. It turned out he did not sign the record deal. He read all the paperwork with it, went over all the terms with a lawyer with it, and at that point, everybody thought he signed with the record, to find out that no, Oliver Anthony told him, "No, I can't do this. That's not what my music is about." I'm actually real crazy about metal roofing, but I'm also crazier about really good insulation so you can't hear the rain beating off from it. Rain beating on a good metal roof, or tin roof as they call it, it's a pretty good sound. My whole back area out here, that's all metal roof. My whole house is actually all metal roof too. Sitting in my office, if it's downpouring, I can hear it beating off the roof behind me because it's only a single pane door. But in my house, I could be anywhere in my house and not even know it's raining, including right here, other than hearing through that single pane door. Actually, out of everything in my upstairs, this is the only door that would allow me to hear through because it's single pane. Everything else is all double pane and well insulated. So, you know, of course, I got it right here on the back of my office door, but it's okay. Eventually, my office is going to be out that door, and then another room that I'm adding on. But I had to put that on hold because, you know, money wasn't working. And one thing I do like about metal roofs too is longevity. Yeah, well, you know, like I say, if you got really good insulation, you won't hear the rain. And to be honest with you, a good rainstorm, especially if you're trying to go to sleep, that's music to my ears. You know, I've actually slept out here on this back patio under that metal roof when it was raining in the hammock and enjoyed every minute of it. Because it wasn't downpouring, it was raining. Yeah, enjoying things quietly is something I actually do a lot. You know, I've got my guitar right over here in the stand. I think I played that 3 times in the last 3 months, if that. I actually made an idiot out of myself. We went to a benefit for a friend of ours and talked to the guy that was doing the music. "Hey, can I get up and do a couple songs while you're on break?" And I haven't played in so long, I couldn't remember the freaking chords. I remembered the words, I remembered the melody, but I couldn't remember the chords. And it made me mad. When I got home, that was the first thing I did. Bring out the guitar and play that song because it made me mad that I couldn't do it while I was on stage in front of a bunch of strangers and in front of a friend who I played for quite a few times. So she's like, "Well, I wanted you to play at our party this year." And I said, "Yeah, I wanted to play there too, but you know, hey, I'm actually supposed to be playing coming up." Oh, gosh. Might have already gone by, actually. Yeah, I did. I was No, it didn't. Tomorrow. I'm supposed to be playing tomorrow. I'll probably take the guitar. If I feel like playing, I'll play. But if I don't feel like playing, I won't. It's a short thing. There's going to be a little party, get together. It lasts 3 hours. If I have to play, it'd be just a couple songs at the end and see everybody later. But I don't know. Yeah, that's tomorrow. All right, I just got to look at the calendar and go, oh, when is that? Anyway, yeah, August 11th. Don't ask me what time because I don't know. I normally show up at their house around 12:30 or 1 o'clock when I go visit them and stuff. So that's probably about the time I'll show up. I think they said they're going to have it all wrapped up by 4 o'clock. These darn drain flies, I hate them. They'll probably have it all wrapped up by about 4 o'clock. Lynn, that would be awesome, especially if that's where you were growing up. I mean, you could tell when Santa Claus got there. The little pitter patter of the hooves, you know what I'm saying? Lynn, I feel bad for you. Actually, that was a topic I was going to get onto, and I haven't gone there yet. Everybody remember the Roomba robot vacuum cleaners that you could program to vacuum your house for you? They were like $400 or $500 at the time. Well, I was at Walmart one day, and I was just going through the clearance aisle because that's a typical aisle for me to go through when I'm at Walmart and just bored. And I found one that was made by a company called Wyze, W-Y-Z-E, on clearance for $150. And I put it in the cart and said, I've always wanted one of these, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice that much money for clean floors. And I just wanted to try it and see how good it was. I brought it home, plugged it in, charged it up on its base. I downloaded the app, and I said, all right, learning mode. Now it learns where that base is, so it'll always return to the base when it's done. I said, all right, cool. It says easy mapping. Oh, yeah, I don't want to have to program this thing. Go to easy mapping. All right, push the button. It drove into every room of my house, around everything, never bumped into nothing, just kind of mapped out every room, and then went back to the base. Says, okay, your map is complete. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait, I don't want it out on my back porch where my other laser room is and stuff, because it's got a threshold which you can go up and over, no problem at all. But on the other side of that threshold is an 1.5 inch drop. It can't get up that 1.5 inch to come back out. Now, how do I block that room? And there was an edit button. So I hit the edit button, and it says, you want to block out a room? Yes, I want to block out this room. And it put up a red square, and you just guide that red square to cover up the doorway or whatever going into that room. Now it'll never go into that room. And it only vacuums an area of about probably 3.5, 4 inches wide into a canister. I let it go through all of its training and everything else, let it get fully charged, and I opened up the app and it says, okay, vacuum. It takes about an hour to do the whole downstairs of my house, not counting where my laser room is out back. That was including my bedroom too. I don't have to do my bedroom anymore. I shut the doors on that and said, no, reconfigure on that one. I don't want you doing the bedroom part too, because if I put a pair of shorts on the floor before I can run the vacuum, I have to pick a pair of shorts up and put them on top of the bed or whatever. And I'm just getting tired of having to do that. The first day was a terror ride. I had to spend hours. My girlfriend's phone cord was plugged in, and she just, she got one of the magnet charges and just sticks to the bottom of the phone. You get ready to go, you just grab your phone and walk out. Well, that was sitting on the floor, and it got wound up into the vacuum cleaner part. And it was a couple hours getting that cleaned out. And I got it all cleaned out, and I literally had to go in and child-proof my whole house. If there was something leaning against the wall that this thing could possibly touch and make it fall down or whatever, had to make it not be leaning against the wall without something supporting it or whatever, and all that happy stuff. But that thing will run until the canister gets full, and then it goes back to the docking station. And if you're within ear distance, it'll say canister full, recharging. You just go over, you open it up, you take the canister out, dump it out in the garbage can, clean the filters or whatever, and put it back together. And then the next time you do it, it'll carry on farther until it gets full again or whatnot. Of course, it never got full on me other than the first time. And, well, no, it wasn't the first time. But it got full on me after Leah's sister left because they had their 2 dogs with them. And it got full with dog hair. And that's the first time I realized it will actually shut down when it gets full, which is pretty cool, It has a little brush that runs around in a circle on the side. It goes up against all the door casings and the corners and the walls and everything. The first time I programmed it, it was 90 degrees back and forth in a room. Every 3 or 4 inches, it would turn around and go back in the opposite direction, do the whole room that way. And then it would leave that room, it would go to the next room, it would do the same thing. But when I took the bedroom out of the equation and had to go through and remap everything, and I took the back patio off again, I labeled it as just first floor, normal, and vacuum. Well, instead of going the 90 degrees back and forth off the walls, now it does 45 degrees off the wall. So every time you remap, it'll change the direction that this thing is running in to make sure it's not missing any spots. And I've run it, I'm going to say probably 30 times since I bought it, and there's never been one time it can return back to base. Even after it's run and it was clean and everything was ready to go, I've run it and run it and run it, and there's never been a time it came back to base without something in it. Never. And I was like, that's better than my household vacuum. You know what I'm saying? My household vacuum leaves behind a lot. Hey, Treasure Hunter Neil, how you doing, buddy? All right, well, other than that, I did buy a Shark rechargeable vacuum. That's the handle to it right there. That thing's kind of cool, too. It's rechargeable. It's more of like a sweeper broom kind of a deal than it is a vacuum cleaner, but it does have a really big canister to hold stuff in. And the brush is constantly running, so it does a good job. It goes up along the edges pretty well and stuff. I bought that for upstairs because I don't want to have to worry about bringing that other vacuum cleaner up. There's drop-offs. Like on that side of the house, there was a good 11-inch drop-off. So down onto the floor level where I'm at, and that's 2 rooms. On this side of the house, there's this room, and then the stairway, and then drops off down the stairs. And there's a big gap between the 2 of them because I don't have the threshold in there yet because I'm not done working on the floor. And then on that side, you have the bathroom. Well, the bathroom's another 4-inch rise or 5-inch rise going up to the floor level. So this upstairs would be terrible to try to run it in. And I decided, no, I'll just buy this one, $52. It's the Shark Purple. If that makes any difference to anybody. The one feature on it I do like is there's a button on the handle right there, that green button. If you push that green button, it lets the handle drop down 90 degrees off the floor and straight up and down, and you can go in underneath furniture and stuff with it. It's about a 2-inch thickness, so it's like the Wise cleaner. Neither of them will go under anything that's less than 2 inches tall. I think the Wise is actually closer to 3 because it's got an antenna thing that sits up on top of it, the sensor. But this one goes down a little bit lower than that one. But yeah, my mom bought one Wednesday when I took her grocery shopping. She just had to have it. Of course, I had to put it together for her. And I got to play with it at her house a little bit. And I was like, man, I should have bought one of these. I didn't want to spend the money. I knew I had a payment going out, and I didn't know how much that payment was. So I was like, yeah, I want that one. And so I went back Thursday, my payday, and bought it. It turned out the payment I was worried about making was only $78, and that was the insurance for a camper. Which, of course, we're not using because my truck's still in the shop, again, forever. No, actually not forever. He had to tear it all back down because all the parts he put in it went bad or were bad. And he's putting all new parts back into it. And we went by it today, and he's got it back in the garage, which is good. One thing I did do is I pulled into one of my ex-co-workers' place because I seen somebody in his yard at his camp, and there's a plastic shroud that goes over the flywheel and stuff in front of the car, and the car bottomed out and it broke that. So now my new car is on hold. Thankfully, I still have my old one because I have to wait for my truck to get out of the shop before I have access to my jack to jack the car up to get underneath it and tie it up or do whatever I got to do with it. That's another advantage of buying a brand new car. I bought it with guaranteed trade-in value, so anything I break, it's automatically guaranteed to be able to be fixed. That insurance wasn't expensive at all. Actually, I was pretty amazed. All right, well, guys, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to turn this one over to Johnny and Christine at the Gillum Farms. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Now that I remember what it is I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow, I will be gone tomorrow. Everybody have a good night. Talk to you later.